Real black people get real. Who can head him a go fail? Yo, deal enough day in a wrong deal. Righteousness we appeal. Yeah, on this channel I've been talking to you for years about the importance of strengthening the agriculture sector in this country. For a number of reasons, if our agriculture sector is strong, we will be able to have more self-employed people. More people will be employed. But what is happening is we have a situation where the people on top believe that it is cheaper, it is easier for their friends who own the supermarket to buy their food from overseas. Whereas you help them win elections, you vote for them, they are not really concerned about you when they are seated in their lofty and elevated places, because their loyalty is to the people who give them money for elections and not for you actually voted for them. And so you go about insulting, cursing and disrespecting people for these people, and at the end of the day you depend on farming to make a living and no one is concerned about your bottom line. But we have a situation where in the time of the plague, the last plague that we had, we saw a situation where boats were not able to come to this country to bring food to this place. And what happened? The government had no choice but to buy food from the farmers to distribute. You would hear them on television saying after this crisis is over, after this plague is over, they would have gone seriously into farming. You would have heard the ordinary people saying that also. But action speaks louder than words. And at this point, we continue to see so much of the farmlands being abandoned. We do not forget what they were saying during the time of the plague. There are many things that can prevent a boat from bringing food to this place. The plague show you all that. That's one example. I think it was around 1962, there was what you call the Cuban Missile Crisis. Khrushchev, at that time, the president of Russia, was sending a nuclear capability to Cuba on some kind of a vessel. And the Americans had their warships in that area to try to stop that from happening. You may not be aware, but a few years ago, there were warships in the waters near Venezuela, because there was a plan. It is alleged that there was a plan to topple the government in Venezuela. Around 3 years ago, 2 years ago, there were warships patrolling the area, and the president of Russia had to send some, this I forgot the name of the weapon, but there's a powerful weapon that can bring down planes. The president of Russia sent a few there and some Russian soldiers. That is why they didn't topple Venezuela. That happened a few years ago, and many people are not aware of that. If there was a military operation going on in Venezuela, down there in Venezuela, boats would have not been able to use that route to bring food into our shores. It could happen anywhere at any time. Or even if boats are able to pass using another route, the cost of fuel would have made the goods more expensive. For the millionth time, the people in this country fail to understand the importance of growing their own food. How can you say you are an independent and a sovereign country and you cannot grow your own food, you cannot produce your own food? How can you call yourself a sovereign country when you cannot grow your own food? There are a lot of our foods come from the United States. And a lot of the foods that are grown in the United States, the people in England, the Europeans, have a problem with the chemicals that they use in food. Yes. But we just buy those things and we bring them here. Do we ever test those produce that we come here with? Do we really take samples and send that to a lab in another country and to find out really the the amount and the concentrations of pesticides in those foods. But it's a situation where the people are just, people just believe like the thing that they do, the slackness that they perpetuate in this country will continue forever. One of these days, somebody is going to pay for this neglect. The idea of neglecting the production of food. And every 5 years, you hear the same stupid stories again, criticizing this one about that one is not concerned about agriculture. That one is this, that one is that. And everybody perpetuate the same thing. Denny Riviere is one of the bread baskets in recent times, producing a lot of food. Right now, you go over these places and it is just, you'll just see, just forested areas. How can you have a country, you have a sovereign country, you believe you have a sovereign country, and you do not have the ability to even try to produce, a reasonable amount of food for your country? How can people accept that in a country? We had areas where we had bridges, we had roads where the farmers would have driven their vans to their farms. And these things were destroyed in Hurricane Thomas, and they never fixed these roads. There is a place between Denny Riviere and Grand Ravine, Bawe. That bridge was destroyed during Hurricane Thomas. You had a lot of farmers there. People had to abandon their farms because it was not accessible, because that bridge was never constructed. And all across the country, you see those things happening. Food is very important. You need to produce your own food. And even among us, the people, we have a taste for exotic fruits while we neglect our own things. People will buy grapes, strawberries and those things. Are you not aware that strawberries is one of the fruits with the highest levels of pesticides in it? Pesticides. Strawberry is one of the fruits. There are few fruits coming from the USA, and strawberry is one of them with the highest content of pesticides. You do not get that in our local fruits. People, let's go back to farming our lands. Let's go back to taking that agriculture vibe very serious. And in this place, we have a situation, for example, in Dennery Valley, where there are lands that have been allocated for farming. Some people are on their lines, not paying any money. They refuse to let another person take over the land. And the government refused to get rid of these people and get more serious people on board. When will we ever learn? When will we ever learn?